Pinocchio. I'm a real boy.
And the Food Pyramid will help you find the right balance of everything you and your child need. To learn more, visit mypyramid.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Ad Council.
This portion of the upcoming amazing broadcast is brought to you by the law firm of Catania & Catania, award-winning personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys, serving Tampa Bay families for over 28 years.
From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gronowski, and welcome back to the program where we are soaring high across the Sunshine State on FM and AM. Maybe you're listening right now in the car. Make sure you save it to this station, because this affiliate, wherever you're listening, will bring you the truth with our program, A Neighbor's Choice, every day, weekdays. At this time, you can always depend on this conversation to disrupt the status quo, which is based on convenient little lies for the establishment and those who profit from ignorance and fear. And that's what we're dealing with. But we're seeing people all around this country get increasingly fed up with heavy-handed, lawless tyrants, people who don't even have law on the basis of what they're using. These executive orders we see all across the country. And we see a sycophantic state media, which demonizes a governor like Ron DeSantis for not having a heavy-handed approach to shutdowns. But yet, they don't report the truth that Florida has a better situation going on with the COVID thing than countries or states like New York or California. So we're seeing people all over the country say, you know what, I've had enough. And one such video was captured by my guest who joins me now. He's a field reporter for the Daily Caller, Jorge Ventura. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Well, I wanted to have you on because you kind of were the one that spread this video. Were you filming the video, or what was your involvement in this story surrounding the owner of this Nick the Greek restaurant and him confronting the folks who were enforcing whatever thing they were enforcing? Maybe you can set the table for this.
Yeah, so I've been interviewing restaurant owners here, specifically in LA County, you know, what they're going through with the ongoing lockdowns, outdoor banning. So I've been getting their stories out, and while I was here, I heard about the situation that Anton Van Happen was in, and he's actually in Ventura County, which is a county right next to LA County. They actually just started their outdoor ban, and essentially he received a closure. He received a closure order from Public Health of Ventura County on Friday for essentially having outdoor seating. So. What Anton was doing is he was serving takeout only, and you know, if his customers decided to sit down, he wasn't going to tell them not to. And the county didn't like that. They told him to bring his seats and tables indoors, which he did. Once he did, they still issued him the closure. So I went up there on Monday, which was yesterday, to do an interview with him to get a story out. And as we were doing our interview, a customer actually interrupts our interview and lets us know that there was a man with a blue shirt taking pictures inside his restaurant. And then that's where we I captured the moment of Anton Van Happen, you know, basically confronting the public health inspectors, and the public health inspectors issued him a citation for operating and remaining open. According to them, his public health permit is suspended, and there's a chance it could get revoked if he remains open.
So the issue was the governor issued an executive order, or what's the deal about not eating outside?
Yeah, basically here in California, 99% of us are in the purple tier, which is the most restrictive district. So as of right now, if you're in that tier, there is no outdoor dining. Every county is a bit different, but here in LA and Ventura County, the public health department has issued a ban on outdoor dining. So essentially, you have all these businesses now, another devastating blow to the restaurant industry. A lot of these businesses spend, thousands of dollars complying with outdoor, like tents and heaters, and also making adjustments to their menu. And a lot of these folks can't deal with these ongoing lockdowns. So now we're starting to see owners like Anton start to defy orders and remain open. They don't want to lay off their employees during the holidays. So it was a tense situation yesterday, and I thought my job right there was just to record and just show the world this is a reality here for folks in California. They're definitely the middle class, working class, and small business owners.
Yeah, and what you did was a very powerful thing, because we have to use technology, media technology, to just show what the sausage making of tyranny looks like, right? To expose what the victimization and the bullying, the sterile, and it's not about the people, but the people who enforce it, they always do the whole thing. Well, you can't talk to me. You got to talk to somebody else. It's that bureaucratic deadness, which robs people of their human dignity, not just the people being persecuted, but the people who are doing the persecuting and saying, I'm just following orders, ma'am. I'm supposed to enforce this ridiculous, stupid lockdown. Doesn't matter if it destroys your life. Doesn't matter if it's based on pseudoscience. I'm not liable for what I'm doing. I have no skin in the game, is what they're really saying, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was it was just for me it was just so intense to watch that. There was also in the clip too, some of his customers were there, and they wanted, they were yelling at the health inspectors to leave the store. No one wanted them there. You could hear one of his customers say, why aren't you guys at Walmart right now? There's 500 people in Walmart, and those inspectors, same thing. It's they always say you have to, the orders are coming from someone else, someone from higher up, and it was just, for me, I just didn't expect that video to go as viral as it did. I mean, I woke up in the morning with Ivanka Trump and Donald Trump Jr. sharing it, and the whole world is, kind of feeling the same and angered. And this isn't even political. It's not a left or right issue. This is just, Americans wanting to work and earn a basic living. These people are not asking for a handout, but they're all put in a very, in a very tough situation where you're telling them, hey, shut down, go home. But we're not going to provide you with a paycheck. We're not going to provide you with a helpline. These people's bills keep coming. I think the politicians are just so out of touch because, they're in the ruling class. They're the elite. So for them, they keep making money. All their friends are making money. They don't know the true struggles of what's happening for the rest of America.
Yeah, they go to the French Laundry. I'm sure they have a nice meal there, like Governor Gavin Newsom. So what are some other stories, now that we have you with us, that you've been able to, cover on the ground in a related vein? Anything else that you've seen of businesses or interesting lockdown kind of scenarios that you've uncovered in your field work?
Yeah, one owner that stands out is his name is Brian Avery. He's the owner of a brewery in Lancaster, California, and actually before the ban on outdoor dining here in LA County for breweries, if you didn't have a kitchen, you were already banned from outdoor dining. You were already stuck to only takeout beers only. So a lot of breweries already in struggle and going under in the red. And so what Brian Avery did to comply with LA County was he invested $100,000 into a kitchen, which was still under construction during our interview, and only for the county to then do a ban on outdoors. So, people like him are just lucked out. These folks have to lay off employees during Thanksgiving week. I also spoke to an owner. His name is David Folds and David Ray. They are the owners of a Crony Sports Grill in Agoura Hills, California. They're actually remaining open and have been defying orders and having outdoor dining. And it's just interesting to see the community rally around these folks. I think one thing that's maybe not talked about is Americans really coming out and helping out Americans during this time and donating and trying to keep, people afloat. Even yesterday when I was speaking with Antoine, I went on a quick live stream, and after I was done with the live stream, a lady called in from Alaska and bought $100 worth of food to give away, then tipped the staff $100. And then today someone created a GoFundMe for him. I also spoke to Angela Marsden. She was the owner of that viral video. She's the owner of a bar in Sherman Oaks, California, where she filmed the viral video of her calling out a movie company that was allowed to do outdoor catering while her bar was shut down right across the lot. And, she's received, I believe, the last time I checked with her GoFundMe was like over $170,000. So she said she's at least able to stay afloat and keep her employees on payroll and maybe it could open. So I think that's maybe the untold story in this, is that, you know, Congress has failed us, and now we're seeing Americans really help out Americans and look out for each other during these times. And, you know, hopefully, these guys could get some help out here. But, I mean, everyone's losing hope really quick here in Southern Cal.
And an example of the pen is mightier than the sword, or the camera is mightier than the sword, because there's a lot of people who didn't have what you were able to provide, which is a camera, right, to show what was going on, and they get these citations and nobody knows about them, and nobody comes to their aid because they don't know about the bullying that their government's doing to them. But it's powerful to use media in that way, and everybody has that power at their fingertips if they have the luck and so forth and timing to be able to be there to capture these types of situations. Do you see that there's a sentiment changing in California, where you are in Southern California? You know, here in Florida, we have we're able to eat inside of a restaurant and outdoor dining, and it's not as bad over here. But is there a sentiment change taking place anecdotally from what you've seen?
Oh, absolutely. You know, back in March, you know, everyone really complied with the orders, and even you know, just a few months ago. But now we're starting to see owners and just the working class say enough is enough. You know, if you're not going to help us out, we're done with it. Not only that, but the folks here, they haven't seen the data, the science to back up the ban on outdoor dining. That's the thing, is even according to LA County Public Health, restaurants are not even in the top 5 when it comes to COVID spread. And so a lot of folks are now starting to say, hey, this is not even about politics anymore. This is just about earning a basic living. So the momentum is definitely starting to shift in California. Now folks who are not really political are starting to protest. We're seeing small business starting to organize in March and have rallies. Small business owners organized on Saturday and actually just held a march in Newport Beach. So we're starting to see the momentum swing as these lockdowns continue, and as folks see that, first, there's no data to back this up, and they see that there's no help from the government. But I think another thing that maybe played a role in the momentum swinging is actually seeing the California state leaders' hypocrisy. You know, them putting the lockdown orders and then having Gavin Newsom go to the French law, him getting caught. That actually really angered a lot of folks here, especially the small business owners. And then we had a LA County supervisor who voted to ban outdoor dining ban. She voted this in the same day she was caught dining outdoors in Santa Monica. So I think them seeing also the hypocrisy from the leaders, I think there's a huge lost trust now with the state government and just the working middle class here in Southern California.
Wow. So what are you allowed to do right now in California and where you're at?
Well, not much. I'm in LA County, so the gyms are banned. You can't go get a haircut. Obviously, you can't dine. You can't go eat. It's takeout only. But pretty much Walmart and Costco and other big guys, I could still go to the mall right now. Just pretty much all the big businesses are open down here. I recently just got a haircut last week, and the barbershop that I go to had to basically block out their windows so no one would report on them, and they had to let me in through the back. It was a speakeasy barbershop. So that's kind of the reality here for folks right now.
Wow. Yeah, it's beyond left and right. This is about nanny state fascist wannabes versus people who just want to get on with their life. And I hope that there's a renaissance in California. And I hope that you guys have any kind of integrity in your elections so that people can't just force this type of policies in perpetuity.
Yeah, right now, like I said, we're seeing the tide turn. There's also kind of a movement here called Recall Gavin Newsom that's kind of gaining some momentum. So we'll see where things head. But folks are really starting to get angry. We're starting to see more protests as these lockdowns continue. And like I said, as they get no assistance from the state, people are starting to get political and getting involved.
Well, Jorge Ventura, I appreciate your time, and thanks for your capturing of that video. That was a powerful piece that went viral for a good reason.
And thank you so much for having me on, sir.
We'll continue live on A Neighbor's Choice. Don't go anywhere. Back after these short messages. Who is your neighbor? Dave and Wally are team drivers for Oakley Transport. One day, they came across a very serious accident on the highway. Some might pass on by, but Dave and Wally saw there was no time to waste. They jumped into action and saved 2 people's lives with moments to spare. That's the kind of courageous love we need more of today. It reflects the respected culture Oakley Transport develops with their driving professionals. CDLA licensed drivers. Join Oakley Transport today for a rewarding career. Visit oakleytransport.com. That's oakleytransport.com. Are you ready to transform your career? Jess Smith was too. She was stuck in a job that was controlling her life, consuming her free time, and offering little opportunity for growing her pay. Then she found FinTech Mortgage Association, and she never looked back. FinTech Mortgage Association makes home lending simple, and they take care of home buyers like family. Using technology to make everyone's life easier, FinTech Mortgage Association equips each of their loan solutions architects with the tools they need to build a career with a schedule they control, a product they can take pride in, and an earning potential that is life-changing. Unleash your true potential. Join FinTech Mortgage Association. Visit finmay.com. That's FINMAE.com. You're in charge now. NMLS ID 1492187. Equal housing lender.
Do you despise lawyers? That may be the case until you need one. If you've been in an auto accident and need legal advice, go to the local attorneys that have served Tampa Bay families for over 28 years. Catania and Catania. They are family owned. They understand your needs with legal advice. When you need legal representation, Catania will care for your case from the beginning to final settlement. You won't need to worry. Catania will represent you throughout the entire process. Auto and motorcycle accidents are too frequent in Florida. If you've been a victim, contact Catania. They don't get paid if you don't get paid. Referrals on request. Contact Catania. Putting families first.
Office is Tampa, non-attorney spokesperson.
A Neighbor's Choice returns. I'm David Gronowski. You can email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. That's hello@aneighborschoice.com. I'm looking at a comment that's interesting. This is from Gad Saad. He's a biologist, I believe, and he's a professor of evolutionary behavioral science. And he has a quote here. It says, "The problem arises when domains that should be reserved for the intellect are hijacked by feelings." That's a quote from his book, The Parasitic Mind. And it's something that is very well said, because that's kind of the problem behind all of the religiosity that creates this nanny state that we have. We've had it for some time. These laws have been on the books, and the moral precedent of the government having the ability to tell you when to sit up, when you can't have outdoor dining, you can't get a haircut, can't see a film, you can't go to a ball game, can't do anything, can't even have a party in your home. I saw the video, of course, of the person trying to comfort their mother when their dad passed away at a funeral and they were forced to separate. I mean, geez, we've never even seen a totalitarian society this obsessed with trying to save you from yourself, as if they're your God. They'll tell you when to breathe and when to speak, when to shut your mouth. And so many people go along with it, but many, many others don't. And that's a good thing. And we have to continue to promote that. But it all starts with having, a society that's not based on feelings. Right now, there's so much feelings about fear that it clouds people's judgment, and they do wicked, horrible things to their neighbors because they feel like it helps them fit in with the herd. It's just not a becoming way. It's not a good way of treating your neighbor. It's not a way of being human that has any sustainability for yourself even. I want to this quote from Eli Klein. He says, New York has 25% more current COVID hospitalizations per capita than Florida. And New York is worse than Florida in every other cumulative and current COVID-related metric. Florida is almost completely open and normal. New York is very much closed and irrational. Nobody I talk to in New York City knows that data. Nobody. And see, that's because the state media supports shutting down liberties and not telling you facts that counter that narrative. They are hive mind transmitters. They transmit groupthink. They're not transmitting data that's rational. They're transmitting groupthink. And that groupthink serves the state religion, which is the worship of the state. The worship of the state, that the state is our Messiah, and that if we sacrifice to the state, that the state can have the right leaders in charge that will run and govern us and move our minds and move our bodies into a little automaton state of perfection. And that is something that's very attractive to the people in these media outlets, apparently, because like this person said, there's no ability to even know what's going on. These people are in a bubble in New York City. They're told on their television every day by every supposedly independent media outlet that Florida is terrible. Florida is a disaster. And then we wonder, we say, hey, we're so sophisticated. We're so much more advanced than old, bigoted past generations that were given into hysteria and hate. Well, how can that be when people in New York City think that Florida is a wasteland when it's the exact opposite? New York City has way more current hospitalizations for COVID per capita than Florida. It's worse on every other cumulative and current COVID-related metric, Eli Klein says. And Florida is almost completely open and not nearly as bad of a shape as New York City. Now, you could say there's other factors, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, New York City people are not told that. They don't know that because their media has a vested interest in proselytizing to them a worship of the state. They want to proselytize their devoted faith in the state. That's what's going on, my friends. This is a religion for them. This is a religious war, a religious crusade on the part of the media to try to gaslight the public into submitting and converting to their religious view of how the state should be. And they, rest assured, are okay with writing myths, what we call fake news, myths that hide the reality of the violence of the state in its sacrifices. When it sacrifices Nick, the Greek restaurant in California, when it sacrifices that bar that was over in Staten Island that was shut down, all the different ones we see pop up, and ones that we'll never know because they didn't have a camera and they didn't have anybody telling their story. They demand sacrifice. The state demands the ability to bludgeon and release coercive energy onto a common enemy that does not comply with their rites of passages and their taboos and rituals of compliance. But you have to wake up to this religion and reject it because it is a crumbling and dying religion. And that's why it's more desperate than ever. And that's why it's pulling the mask off and showing its teeth. We'll be back with Veterans Radio in just a moment.
Ronald Reagan would turn over in his grave if he saw what's going on today.
Crazy things are happening.
You cannot be afraid. You've got to stand up for what you believe is right.
But one thing is for sure.
You can't trust anybody.
For talk, news, and information, you can count on us.
Enough is enough. I mean, I almost blew a gasket.
Good for the country.
I know what I'm talking about. A lot of wackos out there.
Your connection to talk about it. The all-new News Talk 1040 WHPO.
President
President-elect Biden asking Georgia voters to elect Democrats in the state's 2 Senate runoff elections in January.
I need 2 senators from this state. Want to get something done. Not 2 senators who are just going to get in the way.
Mr. Biden at a rally today in Atlanta for Democrats John Ossoff and the Reverend Raphael Warnock. The president-elect expected to name former 2020 rival and South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg to head the Department of Transportation. Healthcare workers in more states rolling up their sleeves today to get the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. In the meantime, cases, hospitalizations, and deaths continue to rise. Congress is still stalled on a new relief package, but Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says they better get unstuck soon.
We're not leaving. I assure you, we're not leaving until we finish this package.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says ICU admissions are up 54% in the past 2 weeks. The pandemic is canceling the crowds in Times Square in New York City for the New Year's Eve ball drop. Daria Albinger, ABC.
A Neighbor's Choice is back. I'm David Gronowski, your host, and now it's time for our Veterans Radio segment that we do each week, and it's brought to you by BringOurTroopsHome.us, which is a group of concerned veterans that are doing what they can to raise awareness for what's required to have a war that's constitutional and a war that's just and right. And they are at the forefront of a conversation that needs to continue with other groups. And we have with us their founder, Sergeant Dan McKnight. How you doing, Dan?
David, I'm doing great. It's good to talk to you again.
And it's great to have you on, too. And I understand that you have a special guest who's joining us today.
We do, and it's Nathan Anderson with the Concerned Veterans for America. And we'll get to Nathan in just a second. But before we do, I want to kind of point out, David, that tomorrow is the anniversary of one of the bloodiest battles that America has ever been involved in. It was the Battle of the Bulge, started on December 16th, 1944. And it kind of marks the season, right? Battle of the Bulge, December 16th. It went all the way through January 25th, so they fought on Christmas Day in the Battle of the Bulge. The generals wouldn't even allow them to take Christmas Day off. Even on a ceasefire, they fought and fought and fought in one of the bloodiest battles. Opposed to, like in World War I, that they had the Christmas truce of 1914, where on Christmas, the Germans and the British and the French had a truce where they didn't fight on Christmas. And the generals were so upset at that they made a military policy going forward that would never happen again. And if we fast forward to 2005, when I was in Afghanistan, David, on Christmas Day, our generals did us a solid. They said there would be no war fighting today. In fact, we weren't even nation built on Christmas Day. They gave us the day off from making water treatment facilities and paving roads and building schools, and let us just wallow in our own misery being away from home on Christmas. So it's just this time of year, it makes me think about the actual human toll of war and the loneliness that goes through soldiers' minds when they're deployed during the Christmas season. We were lucky enough just to stop nation building. It would be nice if we could just stop fighting wars and let everybody come home.
Right.
But being away from home over the holidays is just a small price. It's an uncalculated price. It's paid by the military during our endless wars, and we've talked about it before, but it's worth repeating. The human cost of war should never be forgotten or disregarded. And we've used this number before. 800,000 people have been killed by direct war and violence in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, and Pakistan and Syria. And the number have been wounded or have fallen ill as a result of these conflicts is far higher. And the cost of human war, especially this time of year, can't be discredited. And that brings us back to our friend Nathan. Today we're here with Nathan Anderson's with us. He's an Army warrant officer. He's an Army Green Beret. But even more importantly, he's the executive director of Concerned Veterans for America. And CVA just recently launched a new video that talks about the human cost of war and the price that's paid by one family, and specifically the Kent family. And I'd like Nathan to kind of talk to us about that today. So Nathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, great to have you on the program, Nathan.
So Nathan, CVA just launched a new video. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it's about, and maybe you can tell us the Kent story a little bit in better detail.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought up some of this kind of moral issue that our country is dealing with. And before I get to Joe's story, I do want to contextualize why Concerned Veterans for America is telling Joe's story. We've been fighting this war. We've been fighting this longest war in our history, 20 years now. And it's created a series of problems for our nation. One of them is a security problem. It really deters our ability as a nation to deter other threats that we may need to address around the world. That's one problem. There's a constitutional problem, you could call it, when our Congress goes kind of MIA, if you will, for a couple of decades while the nation fights a war. And ironically, the Congress isn't willing to vote on this issue, but they are willing to keep the president or tie the president's hands from bringing our troops home, as we've seen in the FY 2021 National Defense Authorization Act. It's hypocritical. It's embarrassing, really, to watch Congress do what it's done over the past couple of decades. So that's a constitutional problem that we're dealing with. There, of course, is the fiscal problem. This is a many billion-dollar investment that our nation has made. And it comes at a time when we're facing record deficits. And as a lot of our military leaders recently have said, our national debt is one of the greatest national security threats that we're going to have to face. And we're going to have to face it pretty dang soon here. And this is making it a lot worse. And then we come to the what I would call just the moral problem, and what you refer to, Dan, kind of the human cost of this. I think that this is the most important problem that we've created. Thousands of Americans killed, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of civilians that have lost their lives. Tens of thousands wounded, just Americans. And those wounds are visible as they are invisible when those troops come home. And I'd be remiss not to mention the sacrifice that military families make, like the Kent family. And what's happening is our nation is leaving people behind as we move forward and allow these wars to perpetuate themselves. So that's why Concerned Vets has partnered with Joe Kent to tell his story. So the video you mentioned, we just released a new video called Joe's Story. And you can check it out. If anybody's by computer or their phone, they can check it out by going to endlesswars.com. The video is embedded right there. It's a fantastic video where we profiled this gentleman, Joe Kent. Joe's an Army veteran. He's a special operations soldier. He served as a Green Beret in the U.S. Army, as well as a special operator in a special operations intelligence unit. And he has over 10 combat deployments. Joe is incredibly intelligent. If you ever get the chance to talk to him, he's just a wonderful guy. He's very intelligent, very knowledgeable about our foreign policy and the conflicts that we're in. He's really dedicated his life to keeping America safe, and he knows what he's talking about. But what really makes Joe's message so impactful is that Joe's also a Gold Star husband. He lost his wife. His wife, Chief Petty Officer Shannon Kent, was killed in action in 2019, early 2019, by a suicide bomber in Syria while supporting a counterterrorism task force there. And Shannon left behind 2 young boys, and she was on her 5th combat deployment when she was killed. And so Joe is what I would call a social entrepreneur. He just believes in creating change in this space, this foreign policy, endless wars space. He believes what he's doing, and he's willing to step up and tell his story and really advocate for a better, smarter U.S. foreign policy that is going to result in less of this sacrifice that his family's had to give. And he's willing to do that. It takes a lot of courage. If you've ever had to really put yourself out there, this is what it looks like, what Joe's doing by telling his story. And so Concerned Veterans for America partnered with him to give him a platform to have his voice heard. And again, that video can be found at endlesswars.com. You can also check it out on Concerned Veterans for America Twitter, our Facebook, our YouTube channel. Watch it, like it, share it with somebody who you think might connect with it.
Nate, his story is incredible. And who is going to look at a Joe Kent or a Nate Anderson or a Dan McKnight, a veteran of the war on terror? Who's going to look at us and tell us we don't know what we're talking about? Who's going to look at the guys that actually have skin in the game? In Joe's instance, he lost his wife in the war on their family's collective 16th combat tour. Who's going to look at us and tell us we don't know what we're talking about? It's not like we are the 1960s, peace, Code Pink, anti-Vietnam hippies protesting the war. We're not protesting the war. We're protesting the way the militaries used to go to wars over and over again. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a perception out there that if you oppose this war that we've been fighting in Afghanistan, that you're an anti-war activist. But there is a difference. We've got to be intellectually honest with ourselves in this nation. There's a difference between being anti-war and being a realist who embraces the principle of a little bit of restraint in the way that we leverage our military. The military's got an incredibly important role to play. America reserves the right always to defend itself, and we should defend ourselves. And that's exactly what we did in 2001, October of 2001, when we went into Afghanistan. But what we did allow is this nation building to occur. Kind of the mission creep, if you will. That's a common theme that has occurred in recent U.S. foreign policy, and this is what we've gotten from it. And so, this is not a let's fight wars or never fight wars. This is a third option that says we can use our military, but we better be dang sure we're using it for the right reason. And we've exhausted all other options before we do use it. We've got to be responsible.
We're
David, I don't know if you remember in D.C. last year, Nathan was there with us at our Veterans Day celebration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to let our audience know we're speaking with Nathan Anderson from Concerned Veterans for America. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization, for your background?
You bet. Yeah. Dan shared a little bit about me. I'm an Army veteran. My career is in special forces in the Army. And Concerned Veterans for America is an issue advocacy organization. And what we do is advocate for public policies. We advocate for policies that preserve the freedom and the prosperity here at home that so many of us deployed for, that so many in history have given their lives for. And that includes military families who have sacrificed for that freedom and prosperity that we cherish. Dan said something pretty important. That is, when somebody like Joe Kent opens their mouth and shares what they believe is the right thing to do for our nation, people really stop. People stop and they listen to that opinion, because somebody like Joe or Dan have skin in the game. We've demonstrated that we're willing to do what it takes to serve kind of a higher purpose, to defend our nation. And we're willing to give of ourselves personally, and our family sacrifice a lot for that when we do that. And that's why the institution of the military is one of the highest respected institutions in our country, consistently. Way higher respect levels than something like the institution of Congress or even the courts. And that's why Concerned Veterans for America does what it does. We really believe deeply in individuals, in people, and their ability to find bottom-up solutions to solve our nation's toughest problems. And it's usually people the closest to those problems who are best suited to deal with it. People like Joe, who literally have sacrificed to defend our nation, right? And so we give those folks a voice. We just help elevate their voice. They already have what it takes. We just help get them there and and equip them to be better at it and more effective. And that's what Concerned Veterans for America really does.
You're listening to Veterans Radio, a segment on A Neighbor's Choice. We're going to take a quick break, but we will be joined back when we return with Sergeant Dan McKnight of BringOurTroopsHome.us and Nathan Anderson with Concerned Veterans for America. When we return, I'm going to ask Nathan what he thinks about the prospect of kind of looking at these endless wars. Will they continue with this Biden administration? What's in store? What should we expect from Washington in the near future? We'll be back in just a moment. Hello, this is David Hanoski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality, grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a sixth-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR. David Granoski here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
Here's one thing you can scratch off your to-do list without going anywhere, without any out-of-pocket cost to you, and even get up to $150 cash back. Get that crack in your windshield fixed by calling Auto Glass America. They'll come to you, and with comprehensive insurance coverage, there's no cost to you. Call Auto Glass America now and fix that pane in the glass with premium glass and a lifetime warranty. Call 813-96-GLASS, 813-96-GLASS. Auto Glass America.
Some law firms advertise that they are the largest. In law, largest is not always best. In fact, your case could get lost in the shuffle with one of those very large law firms. Catania are family-owned. They are Tampa Bay's attorneys representing clients who have experienced auto and motorcycle accidents. Your case will need a local attorney to get a settlement in your favor. Catania serving Tampa Bay families for over 28 years. Referrals on request. Get the local law firm to represent you. They don't get paid if you don't get paid. Catania, putting families first.
Car accident, motorcycle accident? Call the local attorneys today. Catania, offices Tampa. Non-attorney spokesperson.
Veterans Radio returns. This is our weekly segment we do on A Neighbor's Choice, where we have our friend from BringOurTroopsHome.us join me as a co-host with other veterans and veterans-related groups around the country. We have with us Sergeant Dan McKnight, who returns now with us, as well as our friend from Concerned Veterans for America, Nathan Anderson. So, Nathan, I wanted to ask you, what do you expect to see in regards to these wars, the foreign policy headed into this new administration?
That is a good question. It's a very relevant question, frankly, because this issue, if you look back to the 2016 election, this issue was one of the deciding factors in President Trump's election. He campaigned on it, and research showed that in some key battleground states, this was a key issue that led to his election. And so there's a lot of bad news that we've been talking about, and it feels kind of down. But there is a little bit of good news here, and that's because right now we're actually closer to a withdrawal from Afghanistan than we've been for a very, very, very long time. And that's largely thanks to President Donald Trump. Ending what Trump called our forever wars is he campaigned on, like I said, and he's actually prioritized that in the past couple of years, especially in his administration. And the American people, including military veterans, I'll add, support his plan. Polling shows consistently that support for bringing our troops home from Afghanistan, from Iraq, it's highly supported. It's consistently over 70% of the American public would support that. And so despite the fact that some congressional lawmakers are dragging their heels, the president really has continued to bring more and more of our troops home to their families. The February Doha agreement was an important step in solidifying our plans to bring those troops home. And we're on track right now. We really hope to see more progress here in the last couple of weeks of the Trump administration. But looking ahead to your question, what do we expect to see from a Biden administration? I'm going to cheat a little bit here and say that's to be determined. But if you look at the policies of the Obama-Biden administration, what you really look at is a status quo of forever wars. And in fact, during those two terms of President Obama, that's really when we saw things like surges and this perpetuation of nation building, even expansion into additional countries across Africa and the Middle East where we weren't before. So I'm a little bit worried going into a Biden administration, but I will say that I'm encouraged in a couple of areas. One area is the polling that I referenced earlier. We're really watching a movement build across America. I would say that our society has internalized this realization that we've been at war for 20 years. I want to add something there. This hasn't really been said much that I've seen in the news media, but next October, when we pass that anniversary of Operation Enduring Freedom one more time, we will be entering a third decade of conflict. If you weren't already worried, that should make you really, really worried. And so the polling encourages me. Another thing that encourages me is watching this coalition build in Congress. There are a few champions out there who have demonstrated that they're willing to put their neck out and say what needs to be said. People like Senator Rand Paul have been a big champion for bringing our troops home, ending these endless wars. Representative Matt Gaetz, one of the biggest supporters of President Trump that's out there. Representative Ro Khanna, Representative Andy Biggs. I could just go on and on listing names of elected lawmakers who have really sent the right signals on this issue. And what we need to do as citizens is show those individuals that we support them when they do that. It takes a lot of courage. They're kind of swimming against the current right now, and we've got to back them up. We've got to show them that good policy can be good politics too. And so we can do that as constituents and voters when we participate in the civic process. So those things encourage me. But like I said, going into that question, there's a lot to be seen in how the Biden administration kind of positions itself in the first 100 days of its administration.
Yeah, to follow up with that, Nathan, as a veteran, Washington Post has said that Kamala Harris's close friends call her she's called a Harry Truman Democrat. And she's considered to be perhaps going to be one of the most powerful vice presidents we've had since Dick Cheney. What does that mean to you as a veteran when you hear a politician call themselves a Truman Democrat? Does that send a signal to you that you register or can pick up on?
Yeah, it does, but frankly, what worries me more is that the Washington elites have become just so they just embrace the status quo attitude about our foreign policy, about American strength as the first option, the first and only option many times, and it really worries me as a veteran to watch young people go into the military, and God bless them. We've got just some incredible young men and women who volunteer, give the best years of their life to serve our nation. But it worries me looking at a new generation of warfighters going into service and thinking about the things that they're going to have to deal with policies like the ones that Washington has been driving for decades now. It really does worry me. And so we've got to incentivize principled leaders to take office. We've got to elect them. We've got to encourage them to come halfway, to reach across the aisle and pursue nonpartisan policies that do the right thing for not just our men and women in uniform, but for the strategic interests of the United States. That's really what's at stake here. And we've got to send those signals and incentivize it.
Dan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, David, Nate, first, thanks for being with us here today. This is such an important issue, and we talk about this frequently, the importance of this coalition of people that support what things we're talking about today. Ending the forever wars, having a responsible foreign policy that it has military action as a last resort, encouraging diplomacy and all these other things. The coalition is wide. It's far and wide. Concerned Veterans for America have been kind of the leader on this. They worked with Vote Vets last year and started this kind of a coalition of left and right veterans, conservatives and liberals working together for the same purpose. And Bring Our Troops Home has kind of fallen into that. And we've done the same thing working with Republicans and Democrats and radical left groups and far-reaching right groups, trying to build this coalition. And when Nathan brings up people in the House like Matt Gaetz and Andy Biggs and people in the Senate like Senator Paul, talking about it, supporting them, it's also important to recognize that there are people on the other side of the aisle that have been right for a long time, like Barbara Lee and Ro Khanna. And no matter your politics, if you find someone that speaks accurately and acts accurately in foreign policy matters, it's important to reach out and thank them and support them and ask them to continue doing it, because if they don't hear from the constituency, it becomes very lonely taking this position.
Very good. Hey, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and we want to let people know to go to your website, Concerned Veterans for America. You can visit them at cv4a.org. That's cv4a.org. Thanks for joining us, Nathan. And
thank you so much for having me.
Very good. And that's it for A Neighbor's Choice, folks. Don't forget, bringourtroopshome.us is where you can find Dan McKnight and what they're doing as well. I'm David Gronowski. Godspeed.